Jim Harold's Campfire is brought to you by GAIA, the streaming video service dedicated to exploring the cutting edge of metaphysics, ancient wisdom, and the unexplained. Get your first month for only 99 cents. Go to gaia.com/campfire. That's gaia.com/campfire. Thanks, GAIA.
Welcome to our gathering tonight. Here we share stories of ordinary people who have experienced extraordinary things. Sit back, relax, and warm yourself by Jim Harold's Campfire.
Welcome to the Campfire. I am Jim Harold, and so glad to be with you once again. And if you don't know what the Campfire is all about, well, it's pretty simple. They're real people calling in, telling their stories of the strange, the unexplained, the supernatural. Could be ghosts, could be UFOs, could be cryptid creatures. It could be after-death communications, or perhaps my favorites, head scratchers. These stories that don't quite neatly fit into any category. But whatever they are compelling. Gather around and enjoy Campfire. Kristen is on the line, longtime listener from Idaho, and she's going to tell us about a very unique visitor. Kristen, thank you for all of your support, and tell us about what happened.
So, a few years back, we actually were living in around the Portland area, and it was in a town called Tualatin. And what was kind of unique about Tualatin is that it was in the urban growth boundary zone, which Portland kind of set up to kind of minimize development. And so it was a kind of this like little oasis of these kind of little farmy properties. And our little neighborhood had maybe about 6 homes on the street. And they all had about anywhere from 2 to maybe 10 acres. And it was very kind of rural and pastoral, and people had horses and orchards. And it was just a really kind of fun and, just farmy place to be living, and so close to the city. We were only like 15 minutes to downtown Portland. So it was this just very unique little setting. And it was also at one time, of course, as many of the areas there, on the Oregon Trail. So a lot of the homes were older farmhouses and ranches, including the one that we lived in, which had a little over 2 acres, and it had a really, cool little barn and stable and little kind of horse area. And so when my kids were little, my oldest was about 3 at the time, and I had put him down for a nap, and I was kind of just keeping an ear open for him, and I could hear him. He had fallen asleep, but then woken up, and I could hear him in his room talking. And I thought that was a little odd, since it was just him, but kids talk to themselves,
Sure. Imaginary, so just to, quote, imaginary friends.
But just to make sure, I went and kind of peeked in on him, and, sure enough, he was sitting there in his little toddler bed and engaged in conversation. And I said, Jake, who are you talking to? And he said, well, I'm talking to that old lady that's sitting in the rocking chair. And of course, there was a rocking chair, but there was no old lady that I could see. And, so I thought that was kind of interesting that, was it like, I don't know, some kind of, imaginative creature or something that, a toddler would come up with. But I just, was like, okay, and he didn't seem particularly scared or frightened. He, just seemed to be enjoying this little conversation they were having. So a couple nights later, I was sleeping in our guest room because my husband was out of town, and I'd like to be kind of closer to the kids when they were sleeping. I was lying in bed, and I'm a light sleeper, and I was especially a light sleeper then, just kind of, keeping an ear open for noises and kids. And I was just kind of at that sort of cusp of sleep about 3 a.m. And as I'm lying there in bed, I just had that eerie feeling of someone just staring at me. And so I just kind of lifted my head up, and all of a sudden my eyes met the eyes of this woman who was standing above me, peering down at me with this like just very perplexed look on her face. She
Huh.
was completely dressed in head to toe pioneer garb.
Whoa.
With like a bonnet and a shawl and an apron, and just staring at me like, what are you doing in here? And I just remember kind of shaking my head and closing my eyes, and I opened them up again, and she was gone. And the room had this just so heavy, just heavy energy. And then down the hallway, I could hear the hardwood floors creaking with like footsteps. And needless to say, I did not go back to sleep. But I remember thinking, I think that was the lady that my son was talking to.
That is something else. I mean, that is wild. Now, so do you think that this haunting, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the difference between a residual haunting where you're just seeing kind of a replay or more of a sentient haunting. It sounds like if this person or spirit was looking at you, that they kind of knew what was going on. So this just wasn't a replay. It was kind of interacting with you in a way.
I would say it was of that intelligent haunting because not only did she and I completely, lock eyes, but I'm pretty sure she was having some sort of interaction with my son too. I don't know what they were, having a discussion about, but that they were kind of interacting together makes me think that, I don't know how those things work, but she seemed to have this, like it was like a veil had been lifted, and it was like she was in my world, I was in hers for the most briefest of seconds, and it was just instantaneous. It's so hard to articulate really that feeling because it's so much of a sensory experience. But it was stunning.
Did it make you afraid of the house?
I was a little, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was definitely a little nervous, especially at night. And, with my husband's travel schedule, because he would travel all week. And, like I was saying too, we're kind of out in the woods. It's, even though it was, suburban-ish, it was still, we were pretty tucked away. And so that the idea of kind of being in this place with, maybe this kind of ghostly visitor and no one really around for me to kind of turn to was a little unsettling. I will say, other than her looking kind of quizzical, I didn't feel like she meant any harm or intended anything negative. So I didn't get that sense at all.
Well,
I feel like...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like if anything, she was just sort of like, what are you doing in my house kind of thing.
But it's obviously not deterred you from listening to the campfire.
Definitely not. And no, I'm a huge fan of all kinds of stories. And, having had an experience myself too, it's just one of those things that unless you've had that experience, it's so hard. People are so skeptical, and it's so easy to just dismiss. But when you've had it, you just it, and you can no longer look at things the same way. It's just it kind of just changes you.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much for being a part of the campfire tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Isaiah is on the line, and he said that he was talking to his friends about the paranormal and said, maybe I'll look up a podcast. He found our shows, and he says he's been enjoying it ever since, and we're so glad he's with us. And thank him for joining us tonight. And he's going to talk about some experiences at his mother's house a few years back. And I asked him, well, is it about this and about that? And he's like, yeah, all of that and more. So I can't wait to hear the story. Isaiah, welcome to the show all the way from California, and tell us what happened.
All right, thanks for having me. So around 2009, we lived in this house in Central California, and there was always I want to say there's like a weird vibe with the house. It was newer. It wasn't really an old house. I want to say it was like 10 years old or so. And every time, I walked to my room at night, it felt like something was watching me. whenever I would have friends come over and stay over late or something, they would say the same thing.
Huh.
So then at some point I had got this puppy, and the dog really hated sleeping in my room. And as he got older, I started to notice some odd things about how he was acting. So he would run into the room next to me, and or next to my room, and then he would bark at the closet. Then when we were home alone, he would look at the ceiling and bark at the ceiling. And I was getting really weirded out, and I was wondering what's going on. And I started having a few weird incidents that led up to like it was like this whole point where I really started getting interested in the paranormal.
Right.
So I remember being home one day by myself, and I'm sitting down drinking a soda, and it's on my table, the kitchen table, and then it slides towards me. Oh, and I was thinking like, am I seeing things, or what's going on? Maybe I'm tripping out or something. And then I remember I was sleeping one night, and I woke up early in the morning, like around 2 or 3 or so, in between that time. And I open my eyes, and I see a dark shadow walking across my room and then into the next room. And needless to say, I turned on the light, and I slept with the light on that whole night. So I started really getting interested in the paranormal, and me and my friends were talking about this stuff going on. So we decided that we were going to go out to this house, and it was out in the country. And just to make the story short about the house, because it's a whole nother thing, apparently, I want to say in the 30s or so, there's a lady that people said was a witch, and she had a house out there, and I guess some kids were lured in. They never left.
Oh boy.
The parents in the area burnt the house down.
Oh,
so yeah, we went out there, and we looked at the house, and yeah, it was burnt down, burnt down shed right next to a creek. And there was kind of a creepy vibe there as well. And we're sitting there trying to catch EVPs and things with our phone. We caught some things, but I wasn't sure if it was like the wind or, frogs or something out there. So we're leaving because we're just getting a little freaked out. And my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, she was the last one walking behind us. And then she says, as we're walking, she starts to push me forward quickly because she said she felt like somebody was breathing on her neck.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, oh, wow. So I'm like, okay, let's leave. So we left. A few nights go by, still feeling weird in the house because it's always been like that. And I after that incident with the shadow person, I would always sleep with the TV on, and I would put it on sleep mode, so it would sleep like at a time where I think I would already be passed out. So
I don't blame you.
I set it to the regular time, and I went to sleep, and I remember opening my eyes, and I look at the TV, and it's all scrambled, like kind of like with the white noise, and it's all scrambled, and that confused me because we had direct TV, so it shouldn't have been like that.
No.
It wasn't like an antenna.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, and then I realized that I can't move. And then I start hearing muffled screaming.
Oh boy.
And I'm trying to figure out, why am I hearing muffled screaming? So I have a dresser across my bed, and I'm looking. I can somehow like turn my eyes to look in the mirror, and I'm seeing this. The best way I can describe it, I mean, she was in like tattered white clothes and just long black hair crawling down my wall, right overhead of me. And I want to say she kind of looked like, if you've seen The Grudge or something with a ring, it looked like that. And I'm hearing this muffled screaming, and it's crawling down the wall towards me.
Oh my gosh.
And I start doing my own muffled screaming because I can't open my mouth. because I'm having the paralysis. And I'm screaming for my mom and, muffled, can't really do anything. And eventually it stops. And I wake up and the TV's off. And I had to sleep with the lights on and, with the lights on in the hallway and stuff. And so I go to sleep and I wake up the next day and I have scratches on my back. And, it doesn't look like I scratched my back. Like I went into the bathroom and I turned my back to the mirror and they're like right down the middle to like a place where I couldn't reach it. And it looked like somebody scratched me diagonally. And it was about probably like 3 just red lines down my back.
Oh man.
Yeah. And, and yeah, that was the last, I want to say, major incident. There was a few other incidents in that house. And for instance, my mom was, I was in my room and she was in her room and we're like on separate sides of the house. And she comes out yelling for me and she's like, "Were you knocking on the door?" And I said, "No, I was in my room." So I'm thinking, this is just weird stuff going down there. And really, that was it. I left and I don't feel like anything has followed me since. I never have those type of incidents anymore. That was the last time where I had like a really major paranormal incident. And maybe it's because I was dabbling in the paranormal, trying to mess around at haunted houses or, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that house was like that, but.
So kind of maybe listening to a podcast like Campfire, you're keeping it at arm's length. You're still satisfying your appetite to learn about these things, but you're not getting too close to it.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm not. I'm not trying to go to the haunted houses and summon ghosts or anything, but I like hearing the stories.
Well, and Isaiah, I know you are a member over at the Virtual Campfire group, and your story came from there. So I thank you for doing that. And folks, if you want to find our free Virtual Campfire group on Facebook, just go over to virtualcampfiregroup.com. It'll take you right to our Facebook group, and you can join up there and share stories with great people like Isaiah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I thank you so much for being a part of the Campfire tonight.
All right, thank you.
Jim Harold's Campfire is brought to you by GAIA, the streaming video service dedicated to exploring the cutting edge of metaphysics, ancient wisdom, and the unexplained. And keep listening because I'm going to tell you how you can get your first month of GAIA for only 99 cents. Now, I consider myself and those who listen to the Campfire as unique kind of people. Unbelievably to me, some people out there don't concern themselves with the mysteries of life, the afterlife, ghosts, UFOs, ancient mysteries, and the metaphysical. But we who gather around this campfire, we most certainly do. And that's why I think so many of you love the Campfire, and that's why I'm sure you're going to love GAIA just as much. I love entertainment, comedies and dramas and those kind of things from the huge streaming services as much as anybody else. They have great content, but they are missing something very important to people like us. Great topics and great content that concerns the mysteries of life. But thankfully, there is GAIA. So maybe you're just tuning in and you haven't heard about GAIA. Then you say, "Jim, what is it?" Well, GAIA is the streaming service that focuses on the topics we love with high-quality programming that you can't find anywhere else. But the great thing is you can find GAIA pretty much everywhere. You can find it on all of your devices. Apple TV, iPhone, iPad, Chromecast, your Android device, Fire TV, your Roku, your computer. If you're listening to the Campfire, you can watch GAIA. And here's some of what you're missing if you're not tuned into GAIA this week. The one that caught my eye this week is a new episode of Open Minds with Regina Meredith, and she's going to talk about tuning the human biofield. Her guest, Eileen Day McCusick, explains that the same electricity which powers the stars also powers the life and vitality of our own bodies. And Eileen says that you can learn to tap into the resonance of the electromagnetic field of the body with a specially tuned tuning fork, and thus untangling blockages in the human biofield. Just fascinating. and things that, no pun intended, open your mind and make you think about different ways of looking at the world. And so much more. I'm looking back to some past episodes, things like Beyond Belief, George Norrie from last month, if you missed out on that, Missing Persons in Portals with David Paulides. I know he's always a very popular guest, and this is all part of his continuing Missing 411 investigations. And on that episode of Beyond Belief, David relayed recent findings on some of the most bizarre missing person cases that he has investigated. And there's shows like Wisdom Teachings with David Wilcock. And, of course, Corey Good is along as well with his programs. And there's just so much great content, plus that third-party content, always something new to watch on Gaia. So the question is, how do you get it? Pretty simple. Go to gaia.com/campfire. That's GAIA.com/campfire. There I've handpicked some shows on UFOs, haunted places, and Bigfoot that I thought you might like, and I love the fact that it's set up in such a way you can go to that page at gaia.com/campfire and watch it, and you don't have to put your email address in or anything. You can just watch them, just to get a feel for the quality that you're going to get with Gaia. Hey, on that page, you'll even see my appearance from Beyond Belief with George Norrie from a couple of years ago. So anyway, go there, check out the videos. I know that you're going to love them. And then scroll down to the bottom of the page and you can sign up for only 99 cents. Really, in the big scheme of things, 99 cents is nothing. And it is a great month of education and entertainment. And I know once that first month's over, you're going to say, hey, I'm sticking with this Gaia. Jim was not kidding. It is fantastic. So go to gaia.com/campfire. That's GAIA.com/campfire to see what's happening on the largest consciousness media streaming platform in the world. I love it. You'll love it. Thanks, Gaia.
Now back to Jim Harold's Campfire.
Well, we have a neighbor to the north, the northwest, I guess, and we're so glad to have him on the line. Andrew is calling in from Regina, Saskatchewan, and, it's a lot of fun to go to a resort and go on vacation, unless it's haunted, and maybe that's fun, too. And Andrew's joining us. I found out about us from our friend Dave Schrader of Darkness Radio fame, and recently Dave has just joined in with Midnight in the Desert, so we congratulate him on that. Andrew, welcome to the program, and tell us about this haunted trip to Mexico.
Alrighty. Well, it started, my trip to Mexico happened in winter of 2016. Went down for a visit with a friend. So about halfway through our trip, we crashed in our rooms, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, having to go to the washroom. So I'm laying in my bed and I'm just contemplating, how bad do I need to go? Am I going to risk waking my friend up? Or can I sleep? Let's just go back to bed and whatever. So as I'm laying there, I'm contemplating, I'm staring out over my friend's bed that's just across from me. And I see something standing just to the side of his bed, just right by his headboard. And it looked like something, like a person standing under bed sheets.
Huh.
And it was just kind of swaying back and forth. So I'm like, that's weird. Is it just the curtains playing tricks with my mind? And so I'm just kind of laying there, just trying to really focus my eyes. And I'm like, no, that's somebody standing at the head of my friend's bed. So chills start going down my spine. And now I don't want to move, and I don't really want to let that, whatever it is, know that I'm awake and just staring at it. So I kind of pan the rest of the room, and overlooking the foot of my friend's bed, I see what appears to be like a wraith just hovering above his feet. And it was just all black, just raggedy looking, just kind of like straight out of the movies, like a Lord of the Rings wraith almost, but just floating. And as I'm trying to focus in, I'm like, am I really seeing this? And sure enough, the wraith turns slowly and it just stares at me. And its face is just black, darker than the rest of the room. Instant chills down my spine. Just laying bed, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm not moving. I'm trying to just, just kind of peek out of my eyes now. I don't really want it to know that I'm staring at it. So do I risk, like, what do I say? What do I do? Do I risk my friend waking up and thinking I'm nuts? So I came to the conclusion that I'm just going to jump out of my bed and just tell it to go away. So that's just what I did. I just jumped out and I said, "Get out, you don't belong here." And as soon as that happened, my friend woke up and he turned on his lights and nothing in the room. And for the rest of the trip, my friend just wouldn't let me live it down. He just thought I was nuts. But I know what I saw. It was just my first paranormal experience, and it's scared me pretty good.
I guess so. That's a pretty wild one. Now, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the resort or anything that would lead you that this was usual activity in this place?
No, the only thing I can say about the room itself is that it was just, when I first walked into it with my friend, I just felt cold, clammy, and just kind of dreary. Bit of that damp kind of vibe. But it was just dark, but it just didn't give me any kind of reason to believe there's any kind of paranormal activities going on. And then as soon as I got home from the trip, I started having sleep paralysis for the next 2 or 3 months. And my first encounter with that was slipping into paralysis around 3 a.m. and what I would call a shadow person just jumped onto my chest and started choking me. And being unable to move, and you're trying to yell at it, you're trying to scream at it, and you just can't do anything. And eventually the paralysis broke, and then the shadow person was nothing was there. And that would happen again. That just happened continuously over the course of the next few months. I've had shadow people jump out of my closet, choking me. And then the very last shadow person encounter I had was it jumping onto my chest and tickling my ribs so painfully.
Oh, man.
It like just to the point where it's no longer making you laugh. It's just painful. But all those experiences just forced me to do more research, how to cope with these encounters. And I just learned a lot of techniques with how to deal with it. And the main thing that got me through these encounters was to just not give in to the fear and to keep your eyes closed. Because if you open your eyes and you're staring at this thing on you, it just increases the amount of fear going through you. And just try to remain calm, as hard as that is. Keep your eyes closed and just try to go back to sleep, and just don't try to fight it. Just accept it. And it's, if I do that, it's usually gone in 30 seconds. But that's my story. So
now when people talk about sleep paralysis, some people believe it's totally supernatural, totally paranormal, 100%. Some people think it's totally biological and physiological, 100%. And then some people think maybe it's a mix somehow. Where do you come down on it?
Definitely mixed. There's encounters where it's just, you feel like you're still kind of in half a dream state almost. And then there's encounters that are just, no, this is happening to me. I'm in the middle on it. So.
Well, it's fascinating, and wow, that would be a very spooky thing to see. But good for you that you found coping mechanisms in a way to overcome it. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Campfire. So good to hear from our friends in the North. My assistant producer, Maddie, who is very active on the virtual Campfire group, probably many of you are aware of her, is a Canadian. So we're always glad to welcome Canadians into the fold. So do me a favor, Andrew, tell all of your countrymen and countrywomen about the show. All, whatever it is, 70 million. I mean, I don't know what the population of Canada is, but just to make sure you tell them all. Okay.
Okay. It's about 25 million. 25 million, but I definitely share your show to Facebook. So try to spread the word.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Okay. Love your show, Jim. Take care.
Shannon is on the line from Arizona. She's been listening for about a year, says she loves the programs, and we're so glad to have her as a listener and now as a caller. And she's going to tell us about a time when she rented a house with her husband, and that house was haunted. Shannon, welcome to the show, and tell us about this haunted house.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Well, we moved into this house. We rented it in 2012, and we only lived there for a couple years. And nothing really happened right when we moved in until Christmas morning of 2012. And I just got up really early to make myself a cup of coffee. And I used to have this little coffee cup holder, and it held little espresso cups, and it looked kind of like a tree, and the cups went around in a circle. And I was standing there getting my coffee ready, and I heard the cups hit each other. You know, they were dangling.
Right.
And I started looking at the cups, trying to figure out how that happened, because, you know, there was no wind in the room. I didn't bump into anything. And I was standing there like trying to logically figure out how these cups could have hit each other. And as I was staring at the cups, it was like an invisible finger hit the cups and went halfway around the circle. And I watched these cups just move and hit each other. And it totally freaked me out. So I ran back into my bedroom and told my husband, totally freaked out, watched these cups move on their own. And he didn't think much of it. And so we went on, you know, with our lives in the house. Nothing else happened for a few weeks. And then I was folding laundry one day, and I was in the house by myself. And this was after Christmas now. And I had gotten my husband these speakers that you plug into your phone. So they're not very big.
Right.
And they kind of folded up. And I had them on top of a table, in the middle of the table, on the other side of the room from me. And I was sitting on the floor folding laundry. And then these speakers just flew across the room and landed right in front of me.
Oh, man. And I mean, they may be small, but speakers have big old magnets in them. So it wasn't like something like a feather. It was probably had a little bit of weight to it.
It had a little bit of weight. Yeah. Yeah. That totally shocked me, because there was no way they could have just gone across the room like that. So then that kind of freaked me out and got my attention. And so I started burning white sage, because, you know, I don't want anything else to happen, you know. And so then nothing happens for a long time, but then slowly we start noticing, my husband and I both start noticing like these shadows like running around the house out of the corner of our eyes. And other little things happen, like we'd hear weird noises coming out of our closet. And I had a cutout looking out into the living room from my kitchen where my sink was.
Right.
And every time I was washing dishes, it would look like I'd see like a shadow head or something run across, or I'd just see the top of it run in front of the cutout. And it seemed every single time I washed the dishes, it seemed like it was doing that. So then it all kind of came to the head one day. Yeah, it was freaky. So we've been married now for a year, and we had a daughter, my daughter, and we had her it was a 3-bedroom house, and her room was 2 bedrooms down from ours. And I got up one night, and this is probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced. But I was nursing her one night, and I was sitting on a rocking chair nursing her, and I was facing the doorway that looked out into the hallway. And I was looking down at my daughter, and I just got this feeling, this overwhelming feeling that if I looked up, I would see something that I didn't want to see.
Ooh.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, don't look up. Don't look up. You're not going to like it. You're not going to be happy if you look up. But then it's like something took over my body, and I looked up, and as I looked up, I see this, like, it had to be like 7 foot tall being. I don't know what it was. It was pitch black. It was like the blackest black. And it came up taller than the bathroom doorway, which is, I could see the bathroom doorway from where I was sitting. And its arms, it was really tall and like lanky, and its hands and arms came down past its knees. but it wasn't like it didn't move like it had joints. It was just kind of moved fluidly. And I watched it walk down my hallway towards my bedroom. And it almost looked like an alien. Like, it didn't look like human. It was really scary.
I guess so. That's terrifying. So was that the straw that broke the camel's back? Did you decide to leave because of that, or what happened?
We actually didn't move out for another 6 months. And we didn't move out because of that. I don't know. It was scary, but it didn't scare us enough to think about moving out, because I don't know. That was the only thing that really scared me, was seeing that shadow creature. I don't know what it was, walking down the hallway. But we decided that we wanted to buy a house, so we moved out because we ended up buying a house.
So what, did anything follow you, or was it just at that location?
I think it was just at that location. I don't think anything from there has followed me here, but I think I attract things and I think that's why it didn't scare me enough to move away, because it seems like no matter where I live, weird things always seem to find me.
Yeah, that's so other things happen.
Oh yes, I've got a lot of ghost stories.
We'll have to have you back. Now, what do you think at this location, this haunted house that you were in for a couple of years with your husband? Do you have any feel what was causing it, what was behind it? Did you know about the history of the house, or where it was built, or those kind of things?
I looked up if anything had happened in that house, and I couldn't find anything. I think we were only the second or third people to live there, because we were the people we were renting from had just bought it. So we were the first renters to ever live there. And the people before that, I think, were the original owners. So I couldn't find anything that could have happened. But, it's Arizona, and there's Indian ruins and Indian artifacts. Pretty much, you could throw a rock and find something here. So who knows? Who knows what it was built on top of?
Now, it's interesting you have these experiences, but it doesn't seem as though they've scared you away. You're still interested, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I think I'm interested because I have had so many experiences. It's kind of nice to hear other people having the same experiences. I'm not alone,
There you have it. Well, thank you so much, Shannon. We appreciate it. Thank you for listening, and thanks for sharing your story on the campfire.
Thank you.
Jeff is on the line from Virginia. He's a member over at our free virtual campfire group. You ought to check that out. If you're not in it, it's absolutely free, and it's at virtualcampfiregroup.com. That takes you right over to the Facebook group where we have, I think it's 16,000 people sharing their spooky stories. It's a great community, very supportive. And Jeff went over there and he submitted the story about the haunting of his local high school. He's going to tell us on the show tonight. Jeff, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. And tell us about this haunted high school.
Thank you, Jim. Our high school near where I live is called Hayside High School, and basically my whole family has went there from my mother on. And I was always told about strange happenings in it, which when I started in 96 in 8th grade, it spooked me. I thought it was just my cousins trying to have fun with me. Well, we went ahead, and I went through it, and I would notice that when we were down in the locker room, the lockers would sound like they were banging constantly. Well, I ended up graduating in 2000, and in 2002, it was the fall of 2002, me and my brother and some friends, we tried to get a group of older teenagers together to, kind of give us something to do, not be out causing trouble or nothing. We ended up having an overnight at the school itself, just gathering. There was just a bunch of boys. We laughed, we had fun, and it was about 3 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. We all decided we was going to walk around the school and see if it was true what they were saying about the hauntings. Well, we first went to the locker room, and we noticed weird sounds, like light knocking, sound like someone was shaking one of the locker doors. Well, we went back upstairs, And we would walk around the hallways, and we always heard that the fourth floor was the most haunted. So we decided that we were going to be brave. We were young and nothing scared us. So we went ahead and started up to the fourth floor, which the stairwell had different landings on it. But we noticed, things just wasn't feeling right when we got up to the third landing. Then we decided to go on around to the next one. And when we did, we turned around, and for some reason, I don't know why, something told me to look straight up. Mm-hmm. And when I did, I saw the face of this man. He was black and white in color, just like an old TV show. But his eyes were the reddest I've ever seen in my life, the exact same color of blood. But it looked like they were lit with a fire behind them.
Ooh.
And it was like they were smoking. And when he turned down and looked at us, the smile he gave us, his teeth were just as sharp as they could be. And we run. We didn't know what else to do but to run. And behind us, we could actually hear the footsteps sounding like he was chasing us. We actually went into the gym and placed chairs and things against the gym doors so no one could get in. And that night, from that point on, none of us slept. None of us fell asleep at all. And from that on, none of us will go back in that high school at night.
Don't blame you.
But to this day, you can go by there and all that's be off. Say right now, clock they'd be off. At 12, they'll come on the fourth floor, and they will stay on different ones, flash on and off till after 3 o'clock in the morning. About 3:30, they'll quit. We've actually had a teacher who set a camera up in the hallway trying to disprove everything. He didn't believe in the supernatural. He was skeptic. And what he caught it, recorded or not, scared him to the point that he said he would never doubt us again, and he would never show nobody what's on that video. He actually burned it because it scared him so bad.
Wow. Now, what do you think this thing is?
Well, I've heard stories, and I'm trying to find out what it is. I've heard that there was a student that went there who was a real teacher's pet, and, would tell on the other students if they done anything wrong. And that to get even, some of the other kids had actually pushed him, and he had went down the stairs, and when he hit the bottom, he hit the wall, and it broke his neck and killed him. But I've looked, and I've tried to find that story, which I think it may have been covered up, because in a small town like I'm in, that don't go over well.
Well, I'll tell you, that's frightening. I know I wouldn't want to go in that school at nighttime for sure. No way.
No, there's no way that I'll go back in it. And one of my friends, actually, I met her in 2007, and she had dreams about the same thing, and we started describing it at the same time. And me and her had never met each other before then.
Wow.
So whatever's in that school, it's dark. It feels like it literally wants to end your life. That is its whole goal.
Whew. Spooky stuff. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I would, that's a frightening thing. Red eyes and teeth and just kind of this sinister smile. Very frightening stuff, Jeff. Well, I thank you for sharing your story over at the virtual campfire group and then coming over here and sharing it on the show. That's the way we like to see it, where you share it in both places. Thank you so much for being a part of the campfire tonight.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Guys, I am so excited because I am going to New Orleans this August. I hope you'll join me. I'm going to be there August 10th and 11th as part of the Modern Love event, which actually is a 3-day event, August 10th, 11th, and 12th. And what it is the first national convention for listeners by podcast listeners. And it was born from a Facebook community, the Podcasts We Listen To Facebook community, where members and hosts said, hey, we'd like to have our own convention with all sorts of podcast genres. And the folks there have put it together, and I couldn't be more excited. We're going to have some paranormal peeps there. Forrest Burgess from Astonishing Legends will be there. The folks from Haunted Hillbilly Stories will be there. I'm actually going to be moderating a panel of paranormal podcasters, and I'll be doing a campfire live. So I'm so excited about it. But it's not just about the paranormal. Oh no. They've got history, movies, pop culture, comedy, true crime, fitness, storytellers, audio dramas, celebrity interviews, close to 40 different shows represented. And the convention features, like mine, live shows, panels with multiple shows in one sessions, workshops for would-be hosts, AMA sessions, and a party Saturday night for attendees. Ooh, that sounds like fun. The convention hotel is the Intercontinental Hotel in New Orleans, a premier French Quarter hotel, and it is going to be just incredible. And best of all, if you use the code when signing up Campfire, use that code Campfire, you get 10% off your ticket. You can find all the information at podern.love. That's podern.love. PODERN.LOVE. Again, that's PODERN.LOVE. I'm so excited. I've never been to New Orleans before, and I love meeting listeners. I'd love to meet you there. I hope you'll join us at Podern Love in New Orleans in August. Check it out, podern.love. Thanks, Podern Love.
Now back to Jim Harold's Campfire.
Susie is on the line. She's been listening for 8 years. If anybody has the gumption to listen to me for 8 years, I salute him. She says she's all over due to the military, but now she's in northern Mississippi, and she's going to tell us a story that kind of revolves around Mother's Day. Susie, thank you for listening for all these years. You've been there ever since almost the beginning, and we appreciate it. And please tell us your story.
Okay, it was a year ago Mother's Day. My husband had asked me what I wanted for Mother's Day, and I told him I wanted some tomato planters, the kind they make out of the 5-gallon buckets.
Sure.
We had just been down to a friend of mine and seen them, and I thought they were brilliant. So we came back, and I asked for them, and he didn't know what I was talking about. So I told him to Google them, because that's what you do when you don't know what you're doing. And we went to bed. Next morning, he woke me up, and he said, "When did you put the magazine beside the bed?" And I didn't have a clue what he was talking about because I'd been asleep. And he was holding a magazine that was folded open. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, it was folded open to a diagram of how to put the planter together that I'd asked for. 5-gallon buckets making a tomato planter. Huh. And all I can say is I know I didn't do it because it was a Scientific American, and I would have never even cracked the cover of a Scientific American other than the fact I was asleep. And there was nobody else in the house, so it was a bit of a mystery. However, the year before, my mother had passed away in our house. And during her life, she was famous for sending us envelopes full of do-it-yourself projects, recipes, articles of interest. And I just kind of figure it was one more helpful hit from Mom.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that. I think that's something else, and I believe that. And maybe it served two purposes. One, she wanted to be helpful, and then two, maybe she wanted to give you a sign that she was still kind of hanging around.
Well, and that was good, except it was in our bedroom. If she's going to hang around, I'd rather be somewhere else. Just saying.
Hey, Mom. I love that. Now that was a pretty brief story. So I know you had another one that you said was one of your favorites. This is the one about the lodge in New Mexico. Tell us that story, if you would.
Okay. We lived in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and 17 miles straight up a mountain is Cloudcroft. And when it's hot and you're going swimming in Alamogordo, you go up to Cloudcroft and you have to have a sweatshirt. So I was having a birthday, and my husband took me up for a spa weekend at the lodge in Cloudcroft. The lodge is an old grand hotel that is still in business, I hope. But they're famous for their ghost, Rebecca. And I never gave much credence to Rebecca because all old businesses do a little bit better if they have a resident ghost.
Sure.
That they advertise. But I realized later in the night after we'd had dinner that we were in one of the rooms that was purported to be one of the most haunted. And I will say, the old lodge, when you eat down in the dining room with the single pane glass in December, I'd had my big heavy wool coat on the whole time we were at dinner, and I took it off as I was undressing for bed because it's still cold in there. And my husband was the first shower, so he undressed in the dressing room that was adjacent to the bathroom. So our clothes were nowhere close to each other. But the next morning he got up and put his foot in his boot and started fussing and asked me, "When did you put this in my boot?" And again, I had been asleep. I'm not really up to that much mischief, well, that he seems to think I am. And I went over and he had a pair of dice that he had shaken out of his boot. And the thing was, while he was showering, I talked to Rebecca and I told her that it was my birthday. And if she was for real, I would like a sign, but nothing that would scare me because it was my birthday after all.
Right.
And I realized at the time I was working with children, and my theory was if they ever got in a fight with anything or being obnoxious with a toy, I would just take it away and put it in my pocket and hopefully remember to give it to them later, but not always.
Right.
The pair of dice had been in my pocket across the room, but somehow during the night it left the pocket of my coat and went to another room, an adjoining room, and ended up in his boots.
Well, I think there's only one explanation. It's Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Well, Susie,
I'm not quite as doubtful of her as I used to be.
Well, Susie, I love the story and great stuff. I know you have another story that your husband is fond of. We'll save that for another time, but we'd love to have you back on. And I thank you for sticking with us for all these years and for sharing your stories on the campfire.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, we have a return caller. Alana is back from Wisconsin, and she's going to tell us about a visitor that she's had in her home for the past couple of years, and I'll let her take it from there. Alana, welcome back to the show, and tell us about this this visitor that keeps showing up.
Hi, Jim. Thank you very much for having me back. I'd say the past couple of years or so, I've noticed what I'm going to call is a ghost dog in my house. And now, to start this story, I do have an actual dog. She's 11 years old. So I'll preface the story by saying that. But over the last couple of years, I've noticed, like, during the middle of the night, I'll think she's jumped up on our bed and only to roll over and she's not there. Or I'll find her in one of my kids' rooms with the door shut. Or I'll hear her, like, walking upstairs or walking down the stairs or walking in the hallway, only to find her at my feet under the dining room table.
So this is a doppelganger. Is that right?
I'm not quite sure what it is. It's a head scratcher for sure.
So you currently have a living dog, though, and this dog, is it it looks just like your real dog, right?
It looks like her. It feels like her. If I feel her, like, jump on the bed, or what I think is her, and it's not. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten up in the middle of the night and think I, was going to trip over her or felt her tail on me, and be like, "Oh, sorry," and to turn around and she's not there.
Wow.
Or she's in a different room with the door shut.
Oh my goodness. That is strange. Now, does this feel sinister in any way, or it just kind of is?
It just kind of is. Yeah, not sinister. Like I said, it's the same feel as her and weight wise, and I've never actually seen it with my own eyes, technically, but I'll feel it, and I'll, like I said, it'll sound like she's walking around and wandering around upstairs while I'm downstairs, and I'll turn around and she'll be snoring on the couch.
Wow, that's something strange. Do other people see this dog or have any interaction with this dog?
No, not that anybody said. So no, neither of my kids, my husband, he just thinks it's the actual dog.
Huh. Do you have any theory on what's behind this?
I have no idea. Like I said, a head scratcher. It only started the last couple of years, and it's real random, on and off. So it's not even like, once a week, twice a week, once a month. It's really random.
Man, that is strange. That's a definition of a head scratcher, because sometimes people will report human doppelgangers, but they'll say there's a lot of activity around the house, those kind of things. And I know you've been around before. I can't recall. Is there activity, other kind of paranormal activity in your home that you're in now?
I've noticed a few things, like I'll see something out of the corner of my eye or hear something. I've noticed my son, he'll turn his head. Like if I turn my head because I hear something, I've noticed he does too. So, but I haven't asked him about it because I figured I'll wait till he comes to me about it.
Well, I don't want to freak you out, but let me ask you, do you think it's possible that it's something pretending to be your dog?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Possibly. Another thought I had was maybe it's her spirit, like coming around me, so that when she does pass, it's less traumatic for me. I really don't know.
Has your dog been ill?
No, no, not at all. She's just 11. I mean, which
is getting a little bit up there in the years, but nothing to be specifically worried about. And it's funny, as you were telling that, and folks may or may not hear this because we try to have a lot of soundproofing around here. My dog started barking, so kind of weird synchronicity.
Mine is snoring on the couch.
I think it might have been just somebody walking down the street, but hey, it's a show. Right. So I mean, where are you going to take this? Is it just an interesting thing in life, or are you going to try to figure out what's behind it? What are your thoughts?
I'm just going to chalk it up to an interesting thing of life, and we'll go from there. So,
a dog.
Hopefully, my actual dog lives to be a ripe old age.
I came up with a new word. It's a doppelganger.
Oh, that's good. What is that?
My doppelganger. All right, Alana. Well, thank you for coming on the campfire. It's always good to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the campfire. We appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this little get-together. And we're looking forward to the one next week. And if you have a campfire story, certainly go to jimharold.com/campfire and sign up to share it. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time. As always, until we meet again, stay spooked.
You've been listening to Jim Harold's Campfire. Tune in again next time for more stories of ordinary people who have experienced extraordinary things.